Well, I've been kicked out of my near every bar around. I've been locked up for driving 120 through town. I've been shot at and cut with a knife, messing around with another man's wife. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Threw my boss out the window and got fired from my last job. Hot wired a city truck and turned it over in the mayor's yard. Paid my brother-in-law half to death. Lost $20 on his football bet. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Good old boys, we're all the same. Ain't no way we'll ever change. Ain't no harm by the things we do or the trouble that we get into. Other than a wild hair once in a while, we can't help it, it's just our style. Good old boys is all we'll ever be.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wade and Carter Show. Ash, Brent, good morning, everybody. Whether you're joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Magic, wherever you are, we're glad you're with us.
I just have to applaud you, sir.
Why is that?
I mean, it's a Tuesday morning. Commander's over there just smiling.
Commanding stuff.
Commander knows. He's smiling right now. I'm talking about, Cody, cue the music, straight up 7 o'clock, transition into the program. No glitch, no sound not being done, no technical difficulties on a Tuesday. It often takes us until a Wednesday or Thursday at times to remember how to pull this off. The Wade and Carter weather brought to you by the great folks at AT&T. And all ships rise on an incoming tide. I'm on top of my game now because you're on top of your game. Cody's over there.
Wait, are we doing the show today?
No, mostly we're just going to talk.
No, it's just practice for the show. Because
for tomorrow. Got it.
Enough of how great we think we are. You tell us how great you think we are. Wade and Carter weather brought to you by Deerland Feed. 70 degrees in Victoria under partly cloudy skies.
What's new with Jackie? Did you get a chance to see her?
I did not go by yesterday. I'm going to go by today and see the folks. We actually know.
I bet you chicks.
We know these people. Yeah. We're going to go see.
Can you get me some hay while you're there?
Hey, here's what's interesting. I would just grab
square bale, obviously. Round bale won't fit in his vehicle.
Way too big. We can't deal with that.
I would just grab a couple of baby chicks and take them back to Club 107. But the problem is, if I did that, my bigger chickens would eat them.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
It's amazing. Those chickens will eat anything. I mean, the other day, Dawn had made a pot of pinto beans and made it for the family get together. And we, what we didn't eat, she strained off and gave them. I've got chickens farting all over the backyard. They just ate them like it was mush. Heading to a high today of only 86, 70 to 86. Cloudy. Yeah. Now, tomorrow we have what is that number? Is it 40%?
It looks like almost a 50% chance.
Almost a 50% chance.
But not much, though. I looked too. There's a slight chance of rain, 50-50, but they're not talking much rain. So, Mark Kurtz, Ricky King, Greg Garcia on the podium this morning. Mark Zepeda checking in. Scott
Carter's in.
Scott Tomko, Rena Scherer, Lisa Poole, Monty Howard, Judge Posey.
Introduce them.
Heather Stewart, H.R. Mallory, good morning. Sarah Elkins, Marvin Micker, Stuart Martin, Trey Molina, good morning. Funky, Brad Mitchell.
Trey Molina.
Junior Samples, Micah Patton, Tammy Williams, Sherry Jacobs.
Scott Tomko says, did Brent see a motivational speaker? I am a motivational speaker. We try to motivate you to think. Some big stories today.
Yeah, Jared McCurgan checking in. We got lots of stuff to talk about. So let's
we're going to have a great visit with the head Shaka Khan.
Absolutely.
The daughter of the Khan from VISD. There's Brent going. Good morning, buddy.
Not the Shaka?
No, not the Shaka. You remember Shaka Khan, the musician?
I do.
Was she appropriating?
Maybe.
I don't know.
So I don't know if you saw this one on MSNBC, and I try not to pay attention to MSNBC, but this is my Peter McNally. This is my Peter McNally update. Brent Goen checking in. Jarrett McCrugan. Good morning, cuz. Simone Sanders, who used to be a media advisor for former VP Kamala Harris and former Democrat presidential candidate, doing the best to fearmonger Americans, saying that Donald Trump's going to come after Americans of color now. Next.
Yeah, Donald Trump's going to go deport black people now. I mean, the
and
left
Hispanic
is so,
people and Americans who aren't white, and
dumbest garbage ever.
How come the media isn't mad at the deportation of the Germans that they've been kicking out who have been here illegally?
That was interesting. I saw where 2 German teenage girls got arrested or deported out of Hawaii. Seems a little odd. I mean, I doubt
probably overstayed their visa.
But here's the deal: it's indiscriminate application of the law. You can't have a problem with it.
Well, I mean, it's easy to get them in Hawaii, right? Because what do? You chase them till they come to the cliff.
Yeah, then they stop.
And then they either stop and give up, or they jump into the
or they go
volcano or the ocean. There's only 3 ways to escape.
Maybe they go full limbing.
Only 3 ways to escape Hawaii: in custody or Moana style.
But what? Really? Moana.
He's a grandpa.
But what do you make of, I heard a guy put it fairly succinctly this morning. He said, isn't it odd? At one point we were having 250,000 illegal crossings at our border a month. And now they're grabbing 263 people, maybe. That was the number 263 a day.
And what they don't realize, there were on the northern border, Vermont had 3,000 a day under the Biden coming out of Canada
for maple syrup and to ski. That's what you do in Vermont's for lovers. Speaking of lovers, you see that judge in Las Cruces, New Mexico?
This is a weird story.
This is a bizarre story. It's a bizarre story.
Let's see if I can find it real quick.
Well, I can give you the background. This guy crosses in Eagle Pass. He's an MS-13. He's got MS-13 on his nuts. MS-13 on his nuts. They bring him in.
As they all do.
Yeah, they bring him in, and in some form, whether it be slave labor, whether it be maybe a tryst of some type, I don't understand. This district judge, a magistrate judge in Las Cruces, New Mexico,
Doña Anda County,
the wife adopts the dude. He's a grown man. They take him to their property. He's living with them. Now, this is a judge sworn to uphold the law, harboring an illegal alien with MS-13 on his knuckles.
The police raided his house.
I'm wondering if maybe his wife was just a little enamored with the gentleman.
Yeah.
Federal tattoos.
Federal agents raided his house. That's just weird. And the guy was a cop before becoming a judge.
Yeah, that's weird. That's odd.
We're going to find out he was probably paid by the cartel. Speaking of which,
or he owed the cartel for getting elected.
The cartel is now taking money from illegals to get them out of the country.
Well, so they charged them $1,500 to get in. Now they're charging them to get out.
Yeah, they're making money both coming and going. They're just. I mean, got to give them some credit. They're somewhat crafty and willing to shift their business when it starts to fail. Unlike many major corporations in this country who can't see it coming, Kmart, Sears.
If it doesn't strike you as odd, ironic, hypocritical, that the very same people, as opposed to my partner, the very same people who violated our processes for entering this country are whining, and the left is whining on behalf of them to have some kind of due process on the way out.
They had it when they were found to be illegally here, and then they just bailed.
Well, that's that. What's his name? Kilmar, the
Yeah.
guy in El Salvador in the prison. People are saying he didn't get due process. You have 4 United States senators down there. You don't want to talk about wasting time and probably taxpayer dollars. They have no right to be down there. Those people are traitors. Those people should be voted out of office. They're down there whining.
I mean, you've been, for most of the illegals that were given a promise to appear and they failed to appear, your due process is done at that point.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's absurd that these folks are down there lobbying for these people to have some kind of due process. I just don't get it. If you don't, and I mentioned this to Commander
Maryland
Cody.
judges found him to be a gang member. There ain't a right-leaning conservative judge in Maryland anywhere.
No chance. Commander and I were talking before the program.
As we do.
And you know, and I'll be honest, I was thinking about this guy. I was thinking about the left. I'll be honest, I just completely lost my train of thought. I don't know what it was. I just told you something just a moment ago because we get to talk for about a half hour before the program, but it'll come back to me.
Well, we were discussing the fact that this guy had, like, he was using their guns. He was hanging out with their daughter.
Yeah, they've got a daughter that lives at home, and they invited an MS-13 guy into their home. That's very interesting. But if you're not on board with, I know what I was going to tell you. Thank you for your patience. I was going to tell you that I get it if you're a leftist. You're an idiot, but you're a leftist. I get it. There are idiots among us. And I get it if you're committed to.
Right too.
But let's say that, no doubt about it, there's some really lunatic on the right. But let's say that you, for your own personal reasons or through your experiences in life, that you're pro-choice and you hate guns and all these things.
You could be the next pope.
But if you don't believe in the sovereign nature of our border, if you believe that these people, because they skirted the system, got here illegally, that somehow they have some kind of right to be here, then you're just not American. You're un-American. And by the way, being un-American these days seems to sum up the left. Does it not?
Yeah, I think you're right.
The left hates America. Did anybody bother?
No, they hate Trump so much they're willing to hate America to get at him.
Yeah, you know, we had our Hate America protest this last Saturday at the Patty Dodson. I wonder if they counted amongst their number the farmers market people that were there as well. But I saw several pictures on the crossroads today, and then I have a comment about
we don't kneel to no king. We haven't had a king in
and nobody's asked them to kneel. Nobody has Donald Trump asked anybody to kiss the ring except Pete Hegseth. But at any rate, I did notice that in the Crossroads Today version, there were like 3 photos, and I saw the same person in like 3 of them. It looked like there was a dozen people there. Like they just couldn't be bothered on Easter Saturday to stand up for their country. There was not one American flag in the midst.
Well, because
they're anti-American, man. Now, they'll wave the Mexico flag. They'll wave the
even when
gay
they're
pride.
not Mexican.
Right. Oh, yeah, they're white people out there waving the Mexico flag. Whereas my Hispanic friends, and welcome to all of you on Magic 95.9.
They're out there waving their Dallas
They're out
Cowboys
there waving
flags.
their cowboy flag or their American flag because they're like, hey, man, I've been there. This is a better deal. So I wanted to tell you before we get into Pete Hegseth, and we're so blessed to have a guest that I want to give that person all the time we can.
So we're blowing through some stuff.
Yeah, but this is top of mind stuff. Yeah. Pete Hegseth, very quickly, kind of under fire a little bit because he was talking, and this is, where I fault Pete Hegseth is that he's got a target on his forehead because of what turned out to not be his fault or his doing when a journalist from the Atlantic ended up included in a high-level, supposedly secured military discussion. Turns out it wasn't Hegseth's fault. They traced it back to a gentleman that had gotten a link for an email, and he hit connect that guy, and it automatically sent the email to this guy from the Atlantic. When asked about it, Donald Trump said, here we go again. And he basically said, I summarize, this is why I got Pete Hegseth. Because having been in the media, he knows what this garbage is all about. He goes, he's doing a tremendous job. You don't believe it? Ask the Houthis. That's what Trump said.
Yeah.
You don't think Pete's doing a good job? Ask the Houthis what kind of job he's doing.
Well, in the latest one, apparently he sent details about that attack in Yemen against the Houthis to his wife
and his brother
and a lawyer.
Can you imagine just putting chow in your next high-level military discussion? But here's the deal. Where I fault Hegseth on this is
go home and talk to them.
Or
like every other spouse would have probably done and every president has done.
You already dodged a bullet because it wasn't you that was an idiot, but you dodged a bullet in the public perception realm. Shouldn't you avoid? It's like I tell my kids, it's one thing to agree not to do something that's not right. It's another thing to avoid doing that which is wrong. That's consequential thinking, right? And sometimes your kids will say to you, I did that, but I didn't mean to. And sometimes you buy that because it's true. Okay, I get it. You're bearing a consequence of which you did not perceive. But the smart kid says, wait a minute, I could do this. Now, my parents probably wouldn't care, but could this blow back on me? And when you're the head of the Pentagon, you should think like that all the time. And Pete Hegseth clearly did not.
This is the old, did you not learn anything the first time?
Right.
Speech?
Right.
Right.
And this is what's causing the left and some on the right to say, bless his heart, Pete, he looks good. He's got great hair, but he's just not qualified to be. Go, Commander.
I was just thinking that brought up that Ash's hair also looks great today.
Maybe Ash could not only be. Did you send that picture to the commander of our choice?
I did not. I thought you did.
I need to. I'm just saying that it's logical that Pete Hegseth is kind of on the hot seat. I have to kind of go with that a little bit.
Have any of you watched this show, The Conclave, I think, or Conclave?
No, I heard it was really a great show.
Well, and now, I mean, it's almost life imitating art because we're going to have another conclave here in the coming weeks and I did a little research on this. I haven't watched the show. It's kind of like The Crown, right? It's sort of it's loosely based on history and probably a lot of rumors and innuendo.
Can you
get
this on the screen? I'm sending it to you.
But
have access to it.
Well, send it to Ash so he can whatever needs to happen.
It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. They've already got and I think there's some British odds makers who've put odds on the on who the next pope
are. They gambling on the Pope?
The British gamble on everything. It doesn't matter.
Do you? But see,
I'm surprised somebody didn't make money on Francis passing away on Easter Monday.
My brain says that those Cardinals will get together, review the odds, and then lay off a hedge bet and somehow make the Catholic Church billions of dollars. Yeah.
Taking money out of the collection plate and throwing it on the Cardinal.
Here's another point. Stephanie Connie adds, it's also his learning phase, but he also just let go 3 of the top people under him. So no wonder these rumors are coming out trying to take him down. I don't disagree, and I support the guy, but I mean, I think the point is still valid.
Who's ratting on him though? If he's in a chat with his wife and his brother, yeah.
But that was just dumb.
Hey, Ash, I sent you a photo that Brent just texted me so that you can put it on the screen.
I think
Okay,
I think
thank
you
you.
have to put it up.
We're just really efficient around here.
Let's do this because I know our guest has a full day. Let's invite in our guest. Can we do that? Let's take a break, and Commander will procure said guest. Folks, Palace Bingo to Thursday night.
2 days
This
from today.
Thursday, the 24th. Friends meet friends at Palace Bingo. We're going to have a blast. You need to be there. And the Dollar Floor Store. Get in. You want tile, carpet. You want carpet tiles. You want hardwoods. You want. Let's help. Yep.
You want laminate flooring?
They can do
vinyl
it
plank,
for
luxury
you.
vinyl plank.
Lay down, buddy.
They got it all.
Yep. USA Concrete Coatings. You want to sand it, seal it, stain it, paint it. You don't want carpet or flooring? Get with USA
You don't need
Concrete
it.
Flooring.
Who
Concrete
needs that?
Coatings. They can do it. They can put you down on
Tough as
garage
nails.
floor.
Yep.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
It is.
We're not
It's really
doing a
good.
great job this morning with this.
The
Veracruz
chopping block.
restaurant.
Okay, we'll
No,
go there.
Veracruz. Today's
Okay.
Tuesday. Get in for the best Mexican food in town, period. Period. What do we have to do to help her with her headphones?
She can
'Cause
hear.
we might
She's
get a
good.
call.
She's
You
good.
can hear?
She's good. The call might be, it might be iffy, but she can hear right now. So that's
There you
good.
go.
Should we talk about the chop block? $14.99
Yes.
ribeyes, really good looking steaks. They've got fajita poppers. Those look really good.
Yeah. Oh, they are good. They're wrapped. That's awesome.
And what else do they have? I had it and I lost it. Oh, someone's texting me early this morning. I don't need this morning
No.
because they had one more thing at the chopping block we need to talk about.
Oh,
And it's custom cut smoked bacon, $8.99 a pound. This looks like thick cut, really good looking bacon.
and this is right in line with the prices that you can buy at the big box store.
yeah,
from
some of
Wright's.
the brand names, right?
Yeah, it's great bacon.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it.
I've had the bacon.
Look,
It's really good.
I'm gonna admit something. I don't get starstruck, and I'm not. That doesn't pertain here. We need a microphone. I want to share with you that. So like, it's one thing when you get the applause.
Crowd goes wild.
It's one thing when you get sent, say, to the principal's office, but when you get sent to the principal's boss's office, that's a whole nother story. And then when the principal's boss, I'm flattered to say, reaches out and says, "Hey, I'm ready to come back on the program and talk about all things VISD," then we get a little bit giddy. So we're a little giddy to watch this. Sheila Koyatso on the program.
Did he
with
get it
us
right
today.
this time?
He did.
I
All
did,
right,
and
good.
I'm just glad I didn't call her Stephanie. and right, you were so close.
We're joined by Susan.
Susan
morning.
Koyatso. But we're very excited to have you back on, ma'am, and welcome back to the Wade and Carter program.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Nice to meet you, Ash. We
Glad
didn't
you're
meet
here.
last time.
And
Glad you're here.
And I wanted to tell you that we're going to shotgun around today, and I know hopefully you have some things you want to talk about. We're glad to listen. Wanted to applaud you. I listened. I thought Ashley Strevel did a great job in y'all's Town Talk visit, and I heard you say that you at that point had already identified $1.5 million in that was a recurring either personnel or regular expense that through retirement, attrition, nobody getting fired, nobody losing their job, people that decided not to renew, people that are expenses that could be combined or departments that were going to be merged, that you'd already found $1.5 million to lean up, if not change the budget, to be able to reassign those funds.
Absolutely. That was then. We're now up to $2 million.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Great stuff.
And it basically means that we're all taking on additional responsibility. So one example is we know that Randy Meyer, unfortunately, is going to retire in August. And so I'll be assuming some of those responsibilities. So across the board, central office, we all will be taking on more duties to provide that type of relief to the budget.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Ricky King says, "I never listen. I just talk a lot." It's a talk show. It's not a listen show, Ricky. Old habits are hard to break.
What's new in You're what is this now? Their fifth month?
Almost fifth
Almost
month.
fifth month. What's changed between the first 3 and the last 2?
Well, I came in with a 90-day plan, and we just had a board meeting last Thursday. And one of the comments from the board was, I have delivered on everything that I said I was going to do.
Fantastic.
And I came in to do that. So lots have changed. We're in the process of doing some major pivots with academics. You see what we're doing on the budget side. We developed our contract management system and have a big savings there as well. And so there's just a lot of things that are happening. And really, it's about creating systems and processes and refining what's happening in VISD, in many cases, building on the things that are going well. CTE, for example.
I was visiting this morning earlier with our state rep, the Honorable AJ Louderback from House District 30, and I was reminded to tell you I'm proud for the fact that HB 6 passed, which is going to basically re-empower teachers to take control of their classrooms. You know, from being a lifelong educator, the stories that'll make you go, nuh-uh, that didn't happen. That second grader didn't really spit on you. You know, that kind of stuff. It happens every day, every day. And it's time that those little turds be able to be sent home. And I'm proud of y'all for that. Excited for that. But I want to shift gears over to HB 2, talk about ESAs, and ask you, what is your gut feeling? Nobody knows at this point, and I appreciate that.
Or has the district done some analysis?
Or has the district done some analysis? What is your take on, out of, say, roughly 13,000 students, how many children do you think, or do you expect to, quote unquote, lose to the voucher system?
It's hard to say. Victoria's market has a smaller private school sector. When you compare that to the bigger urban districts, there's going to be much more impact. The issue becomes, if we lose 100 students and they're all from the same campus, not a big deal. We adjust staffing. When you lose 100 campuses across the district and you just have a few students in each campus, there's a bigger impact because you can't reduce staffing in the same way. So
But I mean,
hard to tell, but.
Is it even plausible that you would lose 100 students? They're only talking about 100,000 vouchers, period.
I don't think so.
I don't either. So in the same breath that I get it, and I'm going to assume that as an educator in the public school system, you weren't exactly pro voucher, and I respect that. Is it fair to assume that at the end of the day, for our district, this could be much ado about very little?
Possibly.
Okay. And I hope it is. I mean,
So do we.
I hope that's what it is. I want to ask you another one too. Then, and after that, I'll just let Ash do cheers. You'll notice I'm sporting my Victoria West gear. I have a child in the district, very proud to represent
Two
West.
in the district.
I have 2 in the district. Yeah.
We don't talk about that.
We don't
other
talk
one.
about Ryland. He's at Cade.
Doesn't count yet.
What was the other thing we were going to talk about? We talked about vouchers. Oh, I know. When I was at the legislature last week and they were talking about the 6160 and it's going to 65 whatever, and then or 6190, whatever the number was, the basic allotment, that's going to go up. And there was a guy there who wanted to get rid of the comp allotment. And he said, let's just take that and add. So you're, say, roughly $6,500, $6,600
Right.
now. That he said, let's just take that comp allotment and just disperse it out across every child. And that's another $1,400 a kid, which would put the comp at around $79, almost $8,000 per child if you did away with the comp allotment. Okay, which as I understand it, has to do with low income housing, free and reduced lunch and breakfast, special needs, dyslexia, English second language, and special ed. What is that comp allotment for Victoria ISD?
I don't know off the top
Okay.
exactly what it is, but to take that away and disperse it and put it back into the basic allotment is basically taking from one pool and putting it somewhere else. Because we currently use state comp for a number of different initiatives.
Okay, so here's
some
the
of
deal.
it's required to be used for special needs or
55%.
such, right? And then
55%. So here's my question or my thought. We're just and by the way, I want to emphasize as we talk through this process with Ms. Koyatsa that what is going on in VISD, while it is her responsibility, whatever's going on right now, it ain't her fault. Okay, so we're not here to condemn the messenger. We just are trying to get a look behind the curtain, and we happen to be talking to the wizard. So, and that's Riker, and he's a very
great.
Aggressive young boy. My thought was, and what this proponent of just taking the comp allotment and putting it in the basic, which may not be a good idea, was that 40% of that increase goes to teacher pay raises. 40%
allotment.
of so every dollar you add to the basic allotment, 40% of so for every if you put $1,400 over there, $560 of that automatically goes to teacher. But one thing that was brought up in the legislature was that while that may not make sense, and while some districts have more special needs and things than others, DISD, that comp allotment is $5,000 a kid. Cypress ISD, $3,000 a kid. He made the comment that while only 45% can go one direction, that there's no accounting for the other 55%. That nobody says that, for example, that the kids that bring it in, you've got a high special ed group, that there's no promotion that says you've got to report, we spent that money in this way on special ed kids.
So I'm going to take us back a few years
Yes, ma'am.
because each one of those programs has a threshold that you have to meet. Take state comp at the 55%. 55% of it has to be used for those designated areas. The other 45%, you have flexibility in how you use it in the district, meaning I can use that for transportation costs,
Right.
whatever I need to. The bottom line is with budget deficits, everyone is using 100% of the state comp dollars towards program services. So there isn't a flexibility in the 45% right now.
Because it's being eaten up by
Exactly.
the necessity of the special programs for which it came in.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, I'm actually okay with. It just makes it sound like that number needs to be a little bit higher.
It does.
Right.
Numbers altogether need to be higher.
Yes, ma'am. And I've never met any type of school administrator that didn't think that they needed more money. And I respect that as well. You could do more with more
you
money.
can't pay teachers more. I mean, and that's, everybody wants to pay teachers more, but hard to pay them more when you don't get more
Yeah.
money, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you also know, so every administrator wants more money. And you know that my platform has been, how do we maximize our dollars and maximize our resources, which is what we're doing. You need to work streamlined in order to ensure that you're stretching your dollars just like you did if you were running a business.
What
And
are
that's
some of the-
been my analogy.
What are some of the things in VISD that you've looked to streamline or have identified that can be streamlined to do that?
So personnel for one,
Mhm.
and I'll give you a separate example.
Okay.
And I'm just going to go out there.
No, you feel free.
Yeah. So at our two high schools, the principal and every assistant principal had their own secretary. That's unheard of. Unheard of. You don't have 5 secretaries
Combine
at a
that.
high school.
They don't all need a secretary.
That's right. So that's exactly what we did. We said, we're going to phase it in. The 4 assistant principals will now each share a secretary. So we have 2 and 2 that they're sharing. So that saved us 4 positions, almost $100,000.
And just to put that in perspective, our county court, Judge Zeller, 4 commissioners, they share a secretary.
Yes.
That's fine. They share an assistant.
So personnel is one. We're also looking at the kinds of programs and services that we're contracting for and what kind of return and impact those programs and services are providing. One example is we have a reading online program $273,000 a year for that. What's the return on the investment? So I've been talking to principals, teachers, and we're going to do a more formal analysis to determine, is there a need for us to reinvest in that? And if so, how do we know that it's yielding the type of results that it should? If not, then that's not where we need to go.
I think a lot of us picture these programs as sometimes they're viewed as a godsend. Maybe they come in with a grant from somebody and one thing leads to another and they become entrenched in the district. The next thing you know, you're paying for them.
Well, people are sometimes looking for an answer when results aren't where they need to be. Honestly, the answer is with the teacher. When you have a highly effective teacher in the classroom, you're going to get results. Yeah. And that's where our focus needs to be, on developing our people.
That reading program at $273,000, is that for every campus in the district?
Yes.
Okay.
Not high school.
Okay. So K through eight, right? So, and I'm just, this is the thing that comes to my mind. If it's working, that's a pretty good use of $273,000, because you couldn't hire a reading teacher to help all those kids at every campus.
That's right.
So you're going to look to see if it actually is working and see if there's something else.
Yes.
Or a better way to.
Two things. How's it being implemented? Yeah. Is it being implemented with fidelity? And what sort of impact is it having across the board? If it's impacting just a small group of kids, who are they? And let's just buy the program for those students.
Is there a way, and for lack of the right phrase, to merit-based reward good teachers consistently? I mean, you're very engaging. You're very excited about what you're doing. It's obvious that you're passionate about what you're doing. And you said, I want to invest in our people. I want to, keep our brightest and best teachers. I know we train a lot of teachers here. They're taught the right way to do things, and then they end up going somewhere else. And sadly, they'll go over $50 a year. But I'm trying to figure out if there's a way. For example, you save $2 million. Now, I know that you guys have all your buckets you have to put money in, but why can't you take that money and say, oh, by the way, this year we're going to identify the best teachers in our district. I'm sorry if somebody gets their feelings hurt. These are the 20 teachers I think are the best. And we're going to give them each $10,000 at the end of the year. Yeah, well, can you do that? Or does the state say, oh, you can't do that? It's got to be.
You can do that.
Good. Well, I encourage you to reward performance. We always say we're going to recognize effort. We're going to respect people, but we're going to reward performance.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's a teacher incentive allotment. That's exactly what it does. Rewards your high performing teachers. We're moving in that direction this year. Just submitted our application. You have to start small to go big with that. And so our focus is going to be on reading, language arts, and mathematics teachers the first year, and then begin to build with additional
Sounds
teachers.
Smart to me, right?
Well, it makes sense because
that
that seems to be where the deficiencies are, correct?
I like that a bunch.
Yeah. So do you get some pushback from teachers who?
No,
I don't know.
They don't mess with her. Are you kidding me?
You're going to have mixed opinions on this. The reality is we expect every teacher to perform at high levels. And as you said, ideally, we're rewarding every teacher that performs at those levels.
Right.
I don't think a system that does that.
You don't get a cookie for doing your job, right? I mean, I agree with that 100%. But when you find that teacher, that exemplary leader, that person who takes initiative, that person that does the things that you're like, wow, that impresses me. I like to say, hey, again, all ships rise on an incoming tide. We're going to reward that at the end of the year.
Does that become pretty easy to identify? How does that get identified in schools?
There has to be multiple triangulated data. If you're just using one source, then it's hard to look at that. The way the agency looks at that is growth measures, and they measure it primarily based on growth with STAR. Any teacher, depending on the subset of kids that they have, can show growth because it's from a student starting point to where they end up. So it can work. Using just one data source is different than if we said we're going to use these 3 data sources and look at how well growth is happening, or the degree to which it's happening.
When you objectively, of course, you came from a much bigger district, but when you objectively look at at VISD, or you look at the state, is it disingenuous to say, well, we're 44th or we're 46th in the country when every state doesn't take the same test? How do you realistically, I mean, I get it. It's motivating to work from behind, but how do you justify, or how do the detractors justify saying, well, we're failing in Texas. We're 45th in the state or in the government or in the nation. How do they do that? How does
It
that?
depends on what data they're looking at. If you're looking at something normed nationally, SAT, ACT, something like that, then you're looking at apples to apples. If you look at our state assessments compared to other states, definitely different in rigor. And I've always said, I'd love to bring in a group of community people to take an 8th grade exam.
Let's do that.
Let's do it.
No, I mean that.
I do
Ash and I
too.
agreed with you on that. I laughed when you said that because I see some of the homework that, my 17-year-old Caden, who's really, really gifted in math, came in and I said, do you have any homework? Yes, or just some pre-cal. I could never say just some and pre-cal in the same sentence.
I couldn't do the new math. I'd fail the star because I would do it the old way.
He does Chisenbach. Remember that with your fingers, Chisenbach? No, but he has an abacus as well. But he sits down and just his brain processes those things differently than mine. Mine goes squirrel. Hey, Of course, Ash and I coined the phrase, and you're welcome to use it. Sit down, shut up, and learn something. We have simplified the education process. It's not so endearing.
Yeah.
No.
But it's Stalag-like, and I think it's necessary in this environment.
That's how I grew up in the gulag. Ricky King has a comment that he liked your answer up until the point where you said the star. Anything that has to do with the star test, I think, is not good to teach to a test. But in reality, that's how every teacher teaches to a test, it doesn't matter if it's a star test or it's a weekly quiz, right? It's how you measure things.
The bottom line is we need to create a resilient education system, regardless which assessment is presented to them, whether it's STAR, SAT, ACT, whatever it's going to be. Students are going to do well, and they're going to do well because they have the conceptual and the skills knowledge in order to tackle whatever's presented to them. Yeah. And we need to get to that point.
I don't remember kids having the test anxiety I was in school that they do now. I don't know why that is.
Well, you were high.
Well, maybe.
So how about this, Mr. Spicoli? What about, and this is just philosophical, this is just me and you talking, there's nobody listening. How would it empower, or what programs could you see evolving if, in fact, we end up with an A&M Victoria campus? And let's just say that A&M brings, and this will be several years down the road, but A&M brings in like an agriculture component to their college education. How do you see that impact? I don't think enough Victorians understand the trade-related relationship that VISD has, that they're not trying to they're trying to give every child an option, but they're not trying to make everybody a college kid.
That's right.
Some of them have better skill sets suited to go run a different type of company.
That's true. What I've said before is we are preparing our kids to be career ready. We have to do a better job of preparing our kids to be college ready. Whether they go or not is a different story. That's the bar that we need to set.
I think that's where the kid has the option. I could go to college. I'm choosing to go become a master plumber next week.
That's right.
What would you take on one of my proposed amendments or one of my proposed bills that says, if you're after your sophomore year, you've got 2 years left of high school, you're 16, 17 years old, you're not on the path, man. You're disruptive in class. You've been in my office 15 times in the last 2 years. You missed 40 days of school last year. We're giving you freedom. We're going to give you a certificate that guarantees you that we will teach you when you're ready to come back, but you're out of my school. I'm not putting up with you any longer. Go get a GED. Do you have a problem with that? Do you feel that obligation to keep every kid in high school, no matter how big a turd they are?
We have an ethical and moral obligation to educate every student that's ours. The state holds us accountable for every student. If a student goes and gets a GED, they're considered a dropout for us. And so we're measured by graduation rates, dropout rates, et cetera. And so the system is designed then to ensure that we take care of every student. Is every student committed? No. Should there be some expectation for commitment? Absolutely.
And see, my contention is it would be a very small percentage of the kids. It would be a very small percentage of the kids, but you've got dropouts now. At least if we dropped them out and maybe got their attention, my thought is say it was 50 kids a year. What I heard you say that you didn't say is that if those kids drop out, money's gone.
Not necessarily money.
Okay.
It's on the back end with how we're measured. So graduation rate and dropout rate are two indicators that every single district and high school are measured by. Junior highs as well.
If we get rid of the troublemakers, and I'm talking about the elite of the dregs, we're going to get rid of you, then maybe 5 other kids end up in advanced placement classes. In fact, we always talk about that one child. We just have an obligation to that 3rd grader. Well, what about the other 29 kids in that classroom that are tired of little Billy pooping his pants every day and throwing it on the wall?
You've heard me talk about zero tolerance. I mean, we have to get to that point. It's not fair that 24 other kids are sitting in that classroom and are distracted by one student, or that the teacher can't teach because they're focused on dealing with a student. That's not okay.
And I feel guilty for being that kid from about the 8th grade through high school.
Through adulthood?
I was that kid.
Till now?
Yeah,
I do want to talk about accountability.
Please. Yes, ma'am.
Which is why I asked to come on today.
Knock yourself out.
Yeah. So this past Thursday, the agency released our 2023 ratings. So that's 2 years ago. And to put this in perspective, in 2022, we did not have ratings. That was COVID year. 2023, state assessments were administered and ratings were calculated. However, because of the lawsuit, they had been under litigation and not released. As with 2024 ratings, this is going to be 2025 year. 2023 ratings were just released on Thursday, and Victoria ISD received a D rating, 68. So 2 years ago, there were 3 factors that impacted that. I clearly wasn't here, but what I do know from the state level and my previous work is, 1, we moved to a new state assessment with new item types. 2, we went to online assessments. Every student, there was no longer a paper option, except for a few students that had specific modifications. So online assessment across the board. And 3, they changed the CCMR performance level without providing advance notice for a lagging indicator.
What's CCMR?
College Career Military Readiness.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And so the ratings came out. They will go public this Thursday. But before they go public, I felt like I need to be the voice of VISD. I have always said I'm going to be very candid in how I communicate information. And so I'm here today to say it was a D. It doesn't represent the standard that we hold for VISD and VISD students. I have been working the last 4 months on our strategic plan, and we have already started to pivot where we're going academically. Is it going to happen in 1 year? We'll see a little bit of a change this year. We started some new initiatives. Next year, we're going to reset and level set. We'll see some changes. Give me 2-3 years and we're going to be where we need to.
Did that D surprise you?
We had done internal calculations and knew that it was going to be there somewhere within 1 to 2 points where it would be. So not surprising.
Okay.
So-
Let me back it up a step. Before you took the job,
Oh.
would you have thought this was a D?
I knew the data.
Okay, sure.
So
All
I
right.
came into VISD excited about the challenge to do what I needed to do with the team to change our trajectory for academics. That's my why. That's why I'm here.
So how about this?
That's exciting to hear, to be honest.
is.
You
Absolutely.
knew the challenges and wanted it anyway.
Absolutely.
With respect and props, I appreciate you getting out in front of this as a news story. And I'm going to give you a compliment and tell you it's just not. It's not a news story. It's not a big deal. I don't think any of our listeners are going to be like, oh, VISD sucks. I just don't. I think that the community is bought into what you bring to the table and what you're not trying to do. I tell my kids, there's no trying. You're either doing it or you're not doing
That's it.
So the fact that you're this engaged and that you're out in front, the fact that you want to come on and say, hey, look, I'm going to fall on this sword, even though it wasn't pulled from my scabbard. I'm looking at you and saying, this is much ado about nothing as well. It's a nothing burger. We know the circumstances that led to it. I think coming in off COVID and trying to get kids back in a classroom and all these different scenarios are just the realities of the current educational environment.
Yes.
And you're fine.
Yes. And the COVID ship has sailed.
Right.
We're 2-3 years beyond that. At this point, what are we doing to prepare every single teacher to stand in front of students and deliver instruction at the highest level of rigor? That's where we need to be.
So, honest question. Let's put aside our want list and our wish list and what we hope will happen. If tomorrow I had a magic wand and a bunch of money, and I said, every teacher in VISD, every one of them, I'm giving them 10 grand more a year. Do our kids get a better education just based on that alone?
No.
So that's my question. You hear it all the time. We got to pay our teachers more. We got to pay the people that say it quite often are the teachers. And the only reason you need to pay the teachers more is so that over time, people that say, well, I could be an accountant, but man, teaching school, I can make almost as much money and get a summer in their minds.
Sure.
They get a summer. They really get like 3 days on a Friday. But the only reason that you want to pay teachers more is to attract better people into education. The people that are here just make more money as a benefit. It's kind of like when Tiger Woods started winning golf tournaments and all of a sudden the prize money went to $3 million a tournament. Number 20 made a lot more money than he did before, but he's still number 20. How do you address the idea of, if I gave you that bucket of money today, what would you, first thing you'd use it on?
The change in classrooms, the change with teachers is a process. And it starts with teachers really understanding the TEKS. Do they understand what students are supposed to know and be able to do? Do they personally understand the content? Math, take math. Do I understand the content? What systems do we have in place in Victoria that build teacher capacity over time? We have instructional coaches at every campus. How are they involved in planning those lessons with teachers at very, very high levels? How do they go into classrooms to observe and coach and step in and step out with those teachers to ensure that instruction is where it needs to be? And how do we have ongoing feedback loops and data capturing systems that tell us students are mastering the knowledge and skills as they're supposed to? I mean, there's a process for that. When we implement that process, and we will, we're going to see that we're where we need to be. And I've said Victoria ISD has amazing teachers.
They do.
They do.
Many of them homegrown.
Yes. And we also have some OFIs, opportunities for improvement. So
I like
that's
OFI.
what we're going to do.
That's what you have there. When you have a bunch of OFIs, you have some STRs, soon to be replaced. I like that. OFIs get replaced. I like that.
Last week, I think there were at least two that I remember. Cody earlier has said 3 students across different campuses that issued or uttered terroristic threats. Is it a growing concern? Is this the typical week in VISD? Was this an anomaly last week?
An anomaly, I would say.
Okay.
Spring is spring. Something happens when spring comes with kids. Kids don't always realize what they're saying. Sometimes they say things just out of anger, because they're joking. I mean, I don't know if you saw one of our recent board meetings. We had a student who did exactly that with a friend, and the consequences were extremely severe. The student came and apologized, showed up with our district attorney.
Character issue. That's good.
And apologized to the board and the public for what had happened, indicating that he didn't realize what was happening and the consequences as a result of that. Like kids just don't know what they don't know.
I think the key thing is forgiveness is easy. I think the key thing is if all you ever taught a kid is that your actions have consequences and that expectations are there for a reason. If you can just teach a kid, for example, to sit down and shut up, they will probably learn something along the way. I think I applaud you for that. I think I speak for my audience when I tell you that the strictest environment you can legally provide, feel free and empowered to provide that environment. Zero tolerance. I want people to go to school going, man, because here's what will happen. You talk about a process. I don't want to go to school. They don't let us do nothing. I can't even check for a text from my mom. Never minding that mom didn't even have a cell phone when she was in school and acts like if I can't reach little Billy at any moment, sorry, mom, you can't. He's mine from 8 to 5. You tell me that every day. He's my problem when I call you. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, the strictest environment you can provide, the most zero tolerance platforms you can put into place.
Well, I think a big part of the problem.
Our audience believes in that 100%.
And so do I. And I'm going to say that we have to strike the balance with also creating very engaging, high-level lessons. How do we engage kids in instruction? Simply doing a quick teach and handing them a worksheet to work. That's not engaging for kids.
And simply handing them a tablet doesn't work either.
That's
because
right.
they.
I am totally project-based. Engage kids in projects. Go into our robotics classrooms. Go into a lot of our classrooms, CTE, where kids are having to do, and 100% of the kids are engaged. That's also doable in a math classroom. Get the manipulatives out. You should be going from concrete to abstract anyway. Get kids involved.
I wasn't that good in math, as I've shown on this show many times, but I remember I had a couple of math teachers in high school who really helped me out, but they cared. Yeah. Or at least they seemed like they cared, but they made sure that those that they knew struggled with the content, they gave extra help to. They let the kids that knew their stuff do the stuff. They paid attention to those. They were observant enough to know those who were struggling, and it had a way of making it so that, because at that age, shame and not knowing something is embarrassing. They had a way to not single you out, even though they were helping you. And those are the teachers that in math for me stood out and helped me get
those
through
are good
math.
Teachers.
Yeah.
That's what
but
good
there are
teachers
others
do.
who could take very boring ideas and information and make it fun.
Ash is the guy that, let's say that there's 100 people in the room.
We don't have to go there again.
And 64 out of 100 say yay. Ash will go, that's almost 50%.
I round up at that point. That's almost 70%.
You're analytical, Ash.
He's
almost
big picture. And I'll go, well, that's 64%, Ash. Well, roughly. Okay, I'll acquiesce.
He's good at estimating.
Roughly 60%.
Roughly 60%. I want to tell you that your energy is infectious. The dog likes you. We've always supported VISD, and we've always felt like it was somewhat our role to hold the district accountable in a positive nature, knowing that it's an ongoing entity. It's not going anywhere. We should all be working together to make it better. And I think that you are a great instrument of that change that needs to happen. So we always want to encourage you. I've never, there's not been a net yet. Of course, you're still in the honeymoon phase a little bit. We haven't had anybody say, wow, I wish she wasn't here. And Ash, I want to point out, you know how many people we put on the spot? None of these, we haven't talked to her. None of these questions were presented to her. Do you notice how there's not just an answer? It's a polished, thought out answer. I mean, she knows what she's talking about.
Absolutely.
Wish. You ever think about getting into radio? I mean, I could use a partner that really knows what he's talking about. Yeah, I could really use somebody who knows what we're talking about. Wade and Coyazzo. Yeah.
Wouldn't have to change the C.
Wouldn't even have to change the C.
The logo can stay the same.
It's uncanny. Man, we really appreciate your time. God bless you.
Thank you.
I hope you had a splendid Easter.
I did.
And
come back anytime.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Please come back. Tell Ashley thank you for reaching out and helping set this up.
Perfect.
And we loved having you. Folks, it's the top of the hour. We hope you benefited from that the way we did. I am encouraged about what's going on at VISD. We wish you nothing but the best, and we will have the head Shaka Khan on again, the daughter of the Khan. Thanks, folks.
We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye, folks.
Well, I've been kicked out of my near every bar around.